This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Apologies, Cam. I'm sorry, because normally like the live screen where Sean is at is over to my right, but I actually had the crypto page up looking at Bitcoin, and I wasn't seeing you at the moment or Sean.
Gotcha.
Well, my apologies. I have the live one here on my iPad, but that one doesn't have you.
Yeah, no, all good. I was listening to your passionate rant about life, and so I was like, I was gonna let you go, and then I was like, I wonder if he knows I'm here.
No, I screwed up. My bad. I screwed up. Do you agree that Brady needs to kind of needs to step away? That this is the moment now, and I think he personally screwed up last year. He chose football over family. To be quite honest, after the wife has stuck with him. I don't need you to comment on his personal life. You don't have to do any of that. But you would talk when you've seen what you've seen this year, not just last night, because if you've watched it throughout the year, it's kind of looked a little bit off kilter. Your thoughts on what you've seen? What should Brady do?
Well, I'll put it in my shoes because I've had conversations with people about this Brady thing all year. One thing that us in football, I'm not a player, but I'm in football largely. One thing that we always struggle to do, or we often struggle to do, is to balance our family lives with our professional lives. And so that's something that I am very active in trying to be better at. I know I'm not great at it, but I try to be better at it. And so every little bit of time that I don't have to have at work, I prefer to have with my family. And ideally, some point in my life, probably longer than Brady, probably 30, 40 years, however long it is. At some point in my life, whenever we are financially comfortable, wherever I am professionally secure, I will walk away no matter what age I am to be able to spend the rest of my life solely with my family. And so, to me, family is always going to be important and the most important thing, outside of God to me. And so I think for Brady, I don't know where his hierarchy is, and it's tough because when you're the best at something like Brady is, you literally have to give all of it. And so you do wonder how much has he given to football, and has that become something where he can't pick anything else over it. And my only hope for Brady, and like I said, I don't know his personal life, I don't know what's going on in that respect. I hope that he doesn't regret it. I hope that eventually, whenever he is done with football and he has to look back in life, it's not like, man, I wish I wouldn't have did that last year in Tampa, or I wish I wouldn't have did those last 2 years. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it works out perfectly for him. But that's
I think he has his regrets, bro. I think he has regrets.
So that's my only thing in life, because a lot of times our decisions we make dictate the rest of our lives. I know the way I do my job this year is going to impact how I get my next contract. That's just the way life is. My decisions now and the time I spend with my family and my daughter, that's something that I'm not going to be able to get down the line. And so these are conscious decisions we have to make as people with jobs in this industry. And so my main thing for him is, and he knows this, he doesn't need me to tell him this, but you have the rest of your life. It's beyond maybe just this 1 year. And so that's probably how I would say, just speaking mostly to how I think about life and how I think about job and work, but not saying, because I struggle with it as well.
Yeah. And by the way, one more year on this platform, you'll have all the money you need.
I hope so. I'm not going to retire just yet, but
just one more. By this time next year, you would have made enough money on this platform alone.
Yeah.
Okay. To retire 10 times over. We all know that. Anyway, and by the way, this also rolls over to all the people that wanted Brady last year here.
Yeah.
And that would have been a disaster, because you actually would have lost more than the first and the third that you gave up for meddling with him, because you would have given up more just for trading for him, actually. And then look at the mess you would be in right now, because he's looking more like he's broken down at this point in time. And by the way, this team was way more injured than the team he's currently on, too. Which would have caused even more headaches for him, overall.
So one thing I think about, and I don't know how much your experiences with basketball, throughout life. But like, I don't play basketball as much, but when I used to play basketball a lot, they have something that's called like a heat check. Like if you're hot in life or you're hot on your shot, you keep shooting. You keep shooting until you miss, right? And so I do wonder how much of this is Brady of like, I've made chicken out of chicken salad like a lot in my career. And so why don't I just keep going? I'm hot right now. Like there's nobody who's had a run like I am. So can you just wait one more year? Just wait one more year. I'm gonna just take one more shot. And then eventually, like, you don't have the shot anymore. Like at some point you watched him last night and you were like, dude, it's all good. Like you are the greatest player to ever play the sport. Like there's no need for you. There's no need for you to keep shooting. You know, like we understand. Like, and maybe this is the heat check. I would hope, like you said, he's gonna take time. I would hope that maybe he took one enough shots and said, hey, all right, I'm not hiding anymore. Let's move on from like, let's see what I can move on to this next stage of my life. I don't know if it's past the time where he could salvage where he was with his family, but where you are now, salvage what you have going forward. You've done everything. Like there's no contest. Like I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you could have questions on maybe, is he the greatest of all time? Is he not? You know, that like right around when he was 40 years old. But now that he's played till 45, won another Super Bowl ring, done with a different team without Belichick, I think he's done what he needed to do to really make himself the undisputed greatest player of all time. And so, like you said, I just think there's not much more to prove, and not telling him what to do. But to me, it would make a lot of sense to call it a career this offseason.
I'm with you there. By the way, the Chargers have fired offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, and the Buccaneers also have put out a release on Russell Gage Jr. after suffering a neck and concussion during the fourth quarter of last night's game. Russell was taken to a local hospital where he remained overnight for additional testing and observation. Russell has had movement in all extremities and will continue to undergo additional testing today. We will provide additional information as it becomes available. So at least so far, it looks like the news is good for Russell Gage, not for Joe Lombardi. We'll see if it's good for Justin Herbert there, if that helps in not losing a 27-point lead and 5 defensive turnovers. Anyway, let's move over to the Miami Dolphins. No surprise that they're sticking with Tua, obviously with that one. But here's the thing. Here's the part that I laugh at all these people out there, okay? And maybe it might be you I'm laughing at too. The people that say, well, no, you got to replace him. You can't count on him. And then I start to look at what are the options out there, okay? What is better than Tua? I'd like to know, because it ain't Tom Brady. And unless you're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry, please tell me where's the upgrade over Tua? Because last time I checked, I've never seen the Dolphins move on from the number 1 rated passer in the NFL. You know, so your thoughts on the part that I don't understand, the people that want to get rid of Tua, yet they have no answers on how to move on and get better from that position.
Yeah, I think you're looking at a situation where I think everybody always has an idea that, hey, we can go find our Patrick Mahomes. We can go find our Joe Burrow or whoever else you think is the second or third best quarterback
from the tree.
It's like, let's go get one of those. There's a reason why they are the elite of the elite guys. And I think there's something to be said about having a top half quarterback. Like you can make your argument on whether Tua is top 5, top 10, top 15.
Well, he's definitely top 10.
Like, no matter like I said, depending on how much you love Tua, but I think there's no doubt, and at least in anybody's reasonable mind, that he's one of the best half of the starting quarterbacks in the league. Top 16. I think that's a very low bar. But to me, the value of having a top half of the NFL quarterback is so significant. Like, even the difference between, I know you don't like him, but the difference between watching Ryan Tannehill play to dropping off and seeing Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs, you saw a complete change in how the Titans were as a team. They were a team that was 4 games ahead in the AFC South, and then Ryan Tannehill gets hurt, and they blow the division. And that's like Ryan Tannehill isn't even a top 16 quarterback. He's probably
but he's a good game manager.
Yeah,
he does a good job.
He's probably right at that average starting quarterback threshold. And so the importance of just having an average starting quarterback, and you have an above average starting quarterback who doesn't have health issues, but a starting quarterback, above average starting quarterback nonetheless, I think there's a lot of value in that. There's going to be nobody in the free agency market you're going to find that's going to be better than Tua at this point. There's nobody in the draft, especially now that you have no first round picks, that you're going to have that you're going to find that's going to be able to produce the way Tua is producing. And so it's the grass is greener on the other side mindset. I promise you, there's a lot of teams out there that if Tua became available would line up to go get him. And
of course,
even with the health questions, teams are willing to take risk, and so it's certainly a risk. We see what has happened. I think McDaniel made a great point that I don't know if it got enough love because people kind of criticized the way the Dolphins and Greer spoke about the concussion thing. But he mentioned that we're going to have to teach him how to, work on him, coach him on how to fall. And it may seem silly to say, but if you watch Tua get hurt the way you have, that's something that's an element there. And so it's a big question, but if you can figure out a way to keep Tua on the field, then I don't think there's any issue with the Dolphins quarterback situation. And I do think from what I've seen with this team, if they can make some tweaks on the defensive side of the ball, if they can get a little healthier and a little better on that offensive line, then there's no reason why this Dolphins team can't compete with the top teams in the AFC with Tua as their starting quarterback all year. We haven't seen it, but if you're telling me Tua starts 17 games next year as your starting quarterback, and your defense does have some improvement, your offensive line does have some improvement. Not saying either becomes elite, but some slight improvement.
I just want health.
And
want health. That's all I want. Just a little health.
Then I'll tell you, there's no reason why they can't compete with the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals at the top of the AFC.
Look at the 3 games against the Bills. I can argue they should have won all 3, dude. Okay? And when can you say that over with the Dolphins the last couple of years?
Yeah, a couple plays away. That's it, just a couple plays. And so I think we talked about
all of this is that we have 25 years of so much frustration built up. So you can't tell a Dolphins fan to be patient because they're impatient. It's kind of like a Canes fan. There's been so much failure that it's hard to tell them be patient, right?
Right.
And then the flip side is, this is what I've told people now. I said this in the post-game show. At the end of every season, whether it's Joe Philbin, whether it's Brian Flores, whether it's Adam Gase, unless it's the first year of Gase, the first year of Sperano, the first 2 years of Wanstead, Wright taking over for Jimmy, you get caught in the euphoria of that early success. But then after that, for most of the coaches, at the end of the season, you never felt hopeful. You never felt like, okay, this is the year in the last 25 that at the end of the year, you're like, son of a bitch. If the quarterback's healthy, if the entire secondary is healthy, if they don't take out Teddy Bridgewater when they're not supposed to, if the stinking head coach runs the goddamn ball when he's supposed to continue to run the goddamn ball, this whole season is completely different. And that's the difference. The hope is actually there. The hope was never there by the end of the Wildcat season because you knew it was just a novelty that people figured out. The hope was never there after a couple of years of Adam Gase because you saw that it just wasn't moving anywhere. The hope was never there for Joe Philbin, who wins a meaningless game against Minnesota, and the owner somehow extends something that means nothing. And you can go over the history over the last 25 years. By the end of the seasons, there was no hope. This season left you bitter and pissed off because you knew the what-ifs were super freaking sweet. What if these guys actually stay healthy? You saw the potential there because you were 8-3. And that's something you can't say about past seasons. You never performed like that at that high level. And that's, to me, the difference between this season. And I try to tell people to compartmentalize the whole thing and separate it from everything else that's gone on. There's a lot of positives within this whole season that ended up being kind of, a shortcoming, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you look at this Dolphins team and what would we have said was a success to start the season? I think that I made clear they had to make the playoffs, and they did, right? But the problem is every team that doesn't win the Super Bowl goes home, and they're like, what went wrong? And I'm not of the belief that there's like a moral victory deal, but I think when you start a franchise or you start off with a new head coach like you do with McDaniel, I don't think it's realistic to expect to win a Super Bowl in year one. Now, next year, the expectations rise. It's a part of it. Now the playoffs are the bare minimum. And now it becomes winning a playoff game or winning the division. That's the next standard. But right now, they've clipped the area that they hadn't done in 6 years. And to me, that is a win. The offense looks significantly better than it has probably at any time since, I don't know, Dan Marino era. I mean, like, you've been here longer than I have. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that, especially on the passing side, obviously the running game still needs some work, but the passing offense looked to a level that I obviously have never seen this Dolphins
since Irving Fryer and OJ McDuffie.
Right. And so, and so to me, that's a great thing to build off. Because that was the big thing that was holding this team back. And now some of the elements that the team was doing well in 2021, you got to fix. The defense. The defense regressed this year, and a lot of that's due to injuries, but some of it's due to maybe some scheme questions that we need to change, maybe some players that need to be switched out, but that needs to change. But the defense hadn't been a problem, and so I'd much rather have to make tweaks on defense than try to fix the entire offense, which has been the issue for 5 or 6 years. And then health. Health is something that's unpredictable, right? I heard some questions yesterday in the press conference about signing players who were injury prone and that sort of thing. And you always have to take a risk, right? So some of the guys who were hurt at the end have been guys who got hurt with, as far as Raheem Mostert, as far as, Teron Armstead battling through injuries. But I would rather have a Teron Armstead and deal with the week-to-week angst of is he going to play and not play versus just sticking some rookie out at left tackle, and even if he plays 17 games, he's getting your quarterback killed. And
by the way, he killed it with that whole thing. My dad drafted Curtis Martin, who was injured throughout his whole career and then was the most durable player in the NFL. Fred Taylor had like a bunch of injuries his first 3-4 years in the league, and then went on like a 7-year run of staying healthy. And
Frank Gore,
right?
The scout said he would not last past his first contract. And he said
overweight, two knee injuries, and I saw him playing Coral Gables. So the UM fans never watched the Frank Gore they saw at Coral Gables ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the Niners got the Frank Gore from Coral Gables, actually, not UM. By the way, Kevin Fagan also had a mangled knee in the Orange Bowl and then went on to play in the NFL. So some guys, Willis McGahee, his knee went backwards in a championship game. And he went on to have, arguably, Willis McGahee has had a Hall of Fame career as a running back. So it happens. And by the way, I went back to look at the IR guys. Ogba, not an injury-prone player. Austin Jackson wasn't an injury-prone player. It was just like this year was terrible. Myles Gaskin's not an injury-prone player. Brandon Jones is not an injury-prone player. Nick Needham's not an injury-prone player. Trill Williams not an injury-prone player. Byron Jones, was he a lot of injuries in Dallas? Because it wasn't here. No? Okay, so there.
Ogba did have some injuries in Kansas City, but he hadn't had any since he had been here.
He hadn't been. Okay, so, we could still. Okay, that one's kind of shady.
Byron Jones was not injury-prone, no.
Right. So really, it's just about Tua, Teron, and Chubb. And Chubb did play, actually. Even Chubb with the club at least got on the field. Now, has Chubb with the club been the player you expected when you traded for Chubb with the club? No. But really, it's all these injury-prone players. Actually, all the guys on the injured list, it's just a bunch of freakish injuries. It's really more about Tua and Teron more than anything else that people are talking about. because Chubb did take the field. And by the way, Tehran, as injury prone as he was, he played a non-Tua game this week. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's almost like you create this narrative that really isn't what they're trying to paint it. All I'm saying.
Yeah, and so you'll see that's one of those things you could say, hey, we'll be better next year, but there's no guarantee. You hope based on how it was, but the way injuries work, you can get the same thing next year. So it's hard to bet on being healthier, but in theory, yes, this team will be healthier next year throughout the year and ideally better. But that being said, hope is not a strategy, and so I do think there will be some offseason changes. Like I mentioned, they ran back all 11 starters on defense. That obviously won't happen again in 2023. Byron Jones is one who probably won't be back, and I'm guessing at least 2 or 3 others could potentially be swapped out for other guys. And then, you look on offense, they've got to figure out with some of these young offensive linemen who fits where. They did a lot of kind of mixing and matching with some injuries, but, is Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg still starters for you in 2023 to start the season? Or are you looking for other options in that respect? There's
I'm bringing back Brandon Shell, and he's going to be competing with Austin Jackson for the right tackle spot. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying,
makes a lot of sense.
You're getting your opportunity, but we're bringing back Brandon Shell because that sumbitch was terrific for us this year, and it was a nice little find off the street. Plus, I mean, listen, bless Austin Jackson. If he's able to beat him out and start, great. And if that happens, well, then you have a hell of a backup in Brandon.
Exactly, right. And that's what they have been missing. Yeah, I said that throughout camp. The Dolphins thought I was wrong. They were right on the cornerback thing for the most part. But I was right on
loaded at cornerback. Jesus,
I was Christ. Like they were promised that even though they got Byron Jones and Trill Williams hurt, they were going to be okay. And they were, for the most part. Cater stepped up, although there were times when they were exposed with their cornerback depth. But swing tackle was one that was also obvious in camp, and they said they felt comfortable, and then it became apparent that they needed to go out and get a Brandon Shell, Eric Fisher, a Kendall Lamb to be able to survive through the season. And so,
and Robert Jones, by the way, props to Robert Jones.
Being able to swing out there and play tackle, for a guard, that's good stuff, Yeah, Robert Hunt, for that, and Robert Jones stepping in and playing at guard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Jones stepping in was strong on his part, helping out a lot because of all the injuries. Minshew, Cooper Rush, Andy Dalton, Taylor Heineke, Joe Flacco, Sam Darnold. Plan B behind Tua. Who do you think they should go after?
I don't know if I'm there yet in this point in the offseason, but I think you do have to get a steady backup. I don't know who's going to be available. I like Gardner Minshew and what he had been doing in Philadelphia. To me, he's the type of guy where I always like the type of backup.
He fits this perfectly.
He
fits this perfectly.
Exactly.
And by the way, follow me on this.
Go ahead.
So backups, none of these guys really are going to get starters opportunities. Okay. Right. Nobody's really going to say, hey, we got a starter job for you. So they're going to try to go to the best places. 1, this is a no-tax state. 2, look at the talent on offense. 3, the quarterback has an injury history, unfortunately. So you will get an opportunity to play. So it's just one of those things. Hey, come back up Aaron Rodgers. Oh, shit, I'm never going to play. Hey, come back Tua. Oh, wow, no state tax. Mike McDaniel's offense, Tyreek, Waddle, Tua might miss a couple games. Oh, man, I might be able to get myself a couple stats here. So I think that the Dolphins become actually a sexy destination for all of those things that I talked about over a lot of other places where some of these guys can go as a backup. Thoughts on that?
I think one thing that is interesting here is that because of Tua's struggle staying healthy, you're probably gonna have to keep 3 quarterbacks next year. It's just a reality. Yeah. Skyler's probably on the roster as your 3 again. I know a lot of teams like to keep 2, but that's not the situation. The question that's going to be interesting is the last 3 years with Tua, they've gone with the veteran backup, the Ryan Fitzpatrick or the Teddy Bridgewater, where there's not much upside, but you feel like 1, they could be a mentor for Tua, and 2, they have the experience to be thrown into games if things happen. Ryan Fitzpatrick obviously went really well. He played well in spurts there. Teddy Bridgewater did not go well. You know, he did not play well or stay healthy when they needed him in that respect. And so it's an interesting element. Do you go that route again with a third different veteran, or do you say, like in a Gardner Minshew situation, he's a veteran, but he's a young guy. And so he's a guy who I probably would feel best is putting him on the field if you need him. But I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the guy that helps Tua in the meeting rooms. Like, do you feel like at this stage of Tua's career going into year 4, do you still want him to have that veteran presence to lean on? Or is at this point he the guy in the room that is the veteran presence for anyone else? I don't know what their answer to the question is, but I think that'll probably dictate what style of quarterback they end up end up signing. All right.
Darrell Bevell. We got some problems here, Lucy.
Yeah. And I'm gonna have to run after this so I can get ready for the day.
Arizona and Arizona and the Jets now. And they're offering them an offensive coordinator position. Yeah. So this is a quick 2-level question for you. If you're Mike McDaniel, because of all the mess that went on, I know he loves to call plays.
Right.
Do you continue to call plays and risk also Darrell Bevell leaving? Because if Darrell Bevell can't call plays, that's what he's going to do for other places like Arizona and the Jets. Now, if you're Darrell Bevell, you're not working with a quarterback with the Jets, and you've got to deal with Kyler Murray in Arizona. That's not the easiest thing in the world, by the way, for Darrell Bevell. So they could give him a raise here to be the same guy and just make the same kind of money a coordinator. Stephen Ross will give him that contract. That's not a problem. But I don't know how badly he wants to be a head coach. He's got to be a coordinator first to be a head coach. This Darrell Bevell situation, how much of a problem is it for Miami?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem if he gets offered a job because he's leaving. I mean, like any other coach, if you're offered a coordinator job, he's leaving. If it makes sense for him, if he's cool with the spot, and I don't see any reason he wouldn't for those situations. I mean, we're looking at the Jets. This is a situation where they have a defensive-minded head coach, but they have defensive-minded head coach, so you're going to be able to call plays and be the OC. Sometimes people have questions on if you're leaving for a non-play calling OC job, then you have a situation where, hey, is it really a promotion if I'm the quarterback coach here with a quarterback I like and I'm still hands-on versus a title of OC without the play calling? But if you're going to the Jets, you're going to be the play calling OC there. And so to me, that's a no-brainer no matter who the quarterback is. The Cardinals, you've got Kyler Murray, who, you have whatever your questions are about Kyler Murray, he is their quote-unquote franchise quarterback. For better.
No, but he's immature as hell. He's immature as hell.
But because of that, since you have a guy who already has a negative image right now in the media, if you get him back on track, if you get him doing things right and you win by him, then that's going to blossom you up for more head coaching opportunities. So
he has the goods to be a quarterback in this league.
Right. He has plenty of talent. The issue for him is getting someone he can listen to, and the fact that he can put in the time and working with them. And so Darrell Bevell's been a big key for Tua. Like, we haven't talked about him a ton, but you got to think about it. Frank Smith is the non-play calling OC here, but he's also someone who works a lot more directly with the offensive line, with the tight ends, with a lot of the functions of the offense, where Darrell Bevell's with Tua every single day. And so Bevell's been a big part of Tua's success. I see a lot of people mentioning, you make them co-OCs. Well, how did co-OCs work the first time? Second of all, you already gave Frank Smith the OC title. You're not going to demote him to a co-OC. That's not the way you do good business. It just does not work that way. And so you're going to be in a situation where you let him interview. That's the right thing to do. And you see if he comes back. And so I just don't see McDaniel giving up play calling responsibilities. That's something that's his baby. He loves to do it. I know people have suggested that. I think the most likely thing is he hires another a veteran coach who helps him a little bit with clock management and handles a little bit of that perspective. But I think I would be shocked if Mike McDaniel gave up play calling responsibilities.
Oh, he's not giving it up.
As far as Darrell Bevell, your best hope is to say, hey, interview, and we'd love to have you back. And wait for him to see.
We'll give you a raise.
Yeah, exactly. You can try to make it worth his money wise, right. and that's it. And then wait for the teams to decide if they want him, and then wait for him to make a choice if he does get an offer. And if not, then you got to figure out what you're going to do. But I think this is the good thing of having a good offense. You would always rather guys saying, "Hey, we want your coaches," because you're thinking you're hiring good coaches versus you having to fire a coach every year because he isn't good enough to do it. And so. Yeah, that's where they are.
He only has to hang in there for one more year. This is the way I see it. See, next year, Mike calls the plays. They win the Super Bowl. And then he says, Daryl, it's all yours now, bro. I did what I came here to accomplish. I won the Super Bowl. We move on. You're now the guy. So all you got to do is wait 1 year, and you'll get the title and the money, Daryl. That's it. That's all. Okay. All right. What do you got going on, bro, over at the NFL Network so folks can check you out?
Yeah. I'll be on network today from 1 to 3, talking a little ball. I'm actually on the Jacksonville Jaguars now that they're the only Florida team left in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence behind me did a wild comeback.
Yeah, no, that guy.
One of the craziest games I've seen. Down 27, came back and won. And so I'm heading up to Kansas City.
Tough, bro. That's mentally tough.
Absolutely. And so they know they have their franchise quarterback now after I think some people had some questions and as his rookie year under Urban Meyer. But we're seeing how big of a difference there is with Doug Peterson and Urban Meyer. And so I'll be talking that.
By the way, I was consistent. I made all the excuses for Trevor Lawrence last year, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes
I said he had a shit environment. He'll be a stud in this league. Right. All of you out there thinking, any of you out there, because there were people questioning. I'm like, you guys are morons. Did you watch that guy Clemson? That guy's a player, dude. What I like about him is he's like Josh Allen, that he sells out all the way. Yep. Unlike Goldilocks over on the West Coast, that he doesn't sell out. Anyway, we'll catch up with you on Friday, my man.
Absolutely. Right? Have a good one, my man.
You got it. Take it easy. The Wolf Pack has been unleashed.